Good morning, everyone. My name is Chen Yijie, a research fellow working at the Stockholm Taiwan Center at the Institute for Security and Development Policy. I'm delighted to moderate this webinar focusing on Taiwan's electoral system and the upcoming 2026 local elections in Taiwan. Today's webinar will feature one speaker who will deliver a 40 minutes presentation, and following the presentation, we will open the floor for a Q&A session where we welcome questions and comments from the audience. So this year marks the 30th anniversary of Taiwan's first direct presidential election in 1996, a historical milestone in the island's democratic transition and the consolidation of its democratic institutions. And amid growing geopolitical tensions in the Indo-Pacific and increasingly complex cross-strait relations, public and political discussion often centers on election outcomes rather than the electoral system itself. Yet understanding how Taiwan's elections are structured is essential, as electoral rules shape political representation, influence policymaking, and determine how political leaders are elected. And today's webinar aims to provide a systematic overview of the evolution of Taiwan's electoral system. It will also examine the upcoming local election in November and their broader political significance. And today's speaker is Professor Qingjin You. He is a research fellow at the Election Studies Center, as well as a joint professor of Graduate Institute of Development Studies at National Cheng University in Taiwan. He is also currently an election commissioner of Republic of China, Taiwan. And he earned his PhD in political science from Pennsylvania State University. And in addition to public service, he has continuously devoted himself in the study of party politics, public opinion, electoral systems, and elections. And since this is a lecture and we have a lot of information to share with you, so without further ado, we extend a warm welcome to Professor You. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Yijie. My name is Qingjin Yu. It's my honor to talk to everyone online on the topic of the coming election in Taiwan. Actually, it's my special privilege to speak to the ISDP, this prestigious institution in Sweden. So I'm very happy to talk to you and to share you my own idea about the Taiwan election and also the coming local elections in 2026 in this coming November. Okay, so my outlines here. Okay, I can show my slide here. And yep. Okay, this. Okay, this is my outline here. The second slide. Yeah, try to introduce the Taiwan's electoral system and how this system impact on Taiwan's democratization, and also try to give you some idea about the results and the futures of this election, including some gender protection and the minority group protection issues. Then we'll come to the topic of today about the local election in 2026. We call it 9-in-1 elections, and try to say something related to this election about some issue related to China impact and the issue related to the competition between the incumbents and the challengers, and also some, new issues related to governance issues. And in the conclusion, try to give you a very precise image about an overview of Taiwan's electoral system and its election in Taiwan. Some good, bad, and some are ugly on this one. Okay. Next. The first problem I propose here is that we've got to know why the KMT regime allowed local elections in early period. I mean, when the KMT regime came to Taiwan in the late 1940s, they have a local election in Taiwan. Why? The reasons are quite simple and straight, because KMT as a foreign country, a foreign regime to Taiwan, it need to strengthen its state regime legitimacy in Taiwan because as a foreign regime to Taiwan, KMT at that time did not have any strong grassroots support in Taiwan. So local election allowed the KMT to have a more strong penetration to the society. And also, the ROC constitution requires that the country should be a democratic one. So should allow people to participate politically and to freely participate in politics in this one. So I would say that the reason for the KMT to allow localization in Taiwan are both political and constitutional, and all these efforts contribute its stable regime in Taiwan. So, and also I should say that the opening for local election will enable the KMT regime now no need to fear losing their national power because they open only at local elections level only, not the national elections until 1992. That means in Taiwan, we have a very long period of time having local elections and some very limited seats open for national elections. But it was until 1992 that we have an overall re-election of the parliament. So that's the election process in Taiwan, very briefly. Okay, next. Okay, but this local election, we do find some, well, very unintended and intended consequences. I think we should give some credit to these local elections that expanding the KMT regime's legitimacy and the region and the ruling stability. And also, these local elections allow the people in Taiwan to experience very strong and comprehensive democratic learnings, including the voters registration, electoral campaign, and political speech, blah, 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 all the way related to political campaign and the democratic learning on this one. And also the local election also allow Taiwan to have a more, well, sophisticated political elite individually and gradually to learn how to practice democracy and politics. Even they have some personal interest for ranking in this one, but still they allow the local elite to learn how to practice democracy in Taiwan. And also this local election covering the growth of civil society and expand some individuals' democratic expectation to Taiwan. That means after we have local elections, people are quite naturally, in addition to the local elections, we are expecting more nationalized election overall in Taiwan. So I would say that local election is a beginning for Taiwan's democracy, and there are some intended and unintended consequences for Taiwan, and the results are good for Taiwan too. Okay, next. And you can see this one. This one is very easy to see that, well, before 1992, when we have the overall re-election of the legislative election, that would be the overall re-election for the parliament. We have only very limited seats open for competition since 1969 to 1989. That was the 20 years span that we have only very limited election of the parliamentary election, this one. So, but even the seats open was limited, but we can see that the turnout rate was high. So you can see that this is very unique for Taiwan, that even though we are not that democratized at a period of time, but still people participate very eagerly and in a very high standard of this time. So maybe continue all the way to this talk, I would say that turnout rate for Taiwan is quite unique. In particularly, Taiwan has implemented a very voluntary voting system in Taiwan. We don't have a compulsory voting system, but the turnout rate is still high in Taiwan. Okay, next. Okay, next. Okay, this is some constitutional and executive arrangement for elections. I would say that from the president to the village head or the village chief, we are all open for election after 1992. Okay, so we have president and the city mayor and county magistrate and township head and the chief. And on the other hand, we have the representative bodies corresponding to these executive heads on this one. So it's quite parallel. One thing I try to say that is that, well, the electoral system used to select these executive and the representative are quite different. In the executive heads, we use the LPTP, the single member district parade system, like the UK or quite popular in Western society. And also, we use the single member district for the representative, but we do have some different system for the parliamentary system. I will introduce you one later on this one. And also for local elections, for the local representative, we use a very unique electoral system we call the SNTV-MND, single non-transferable and multi-member district system in the local elections. And we also use SNTP-MND in the parliamentary system until 2005. Okay, so we have some institutional change in 2005 for the parliamentary system, parliamentary electoral system, and we use this SNTV-MND at local elections for the city councilors on this one. Okay, next. Okay, rule the game for the election for the LY that we call the parliament, legislative yuan. Right now, we have a total number of the 113 seats in total. And among these 113, 73 were elected from the single member district, LPTP style. And we have the other 34 seats from the party list proportional representation, and still we have 6 indigenous seats from the previous used SNTP-MND. So it's really a very mixed system in Taiwan's parliamentary electoral system. Other than this, we still have some rules for the 50% quota guarantee for female candidate. That means among those 34 party list PR, every party who participate in the party list election, they have to nominate 50% of the candidate to be female. That was prescribed in the Constitution. And also, we still have a 5% threshold for party votes for seat allocation in the party list PR. 5% is a little bit high compared to other countries. And for the indigenous people, the total number for the LY seats is 6. And among the 6, we have 3 seats for the plain indigenous and 3 seats for the mountain indigenous people. And the current parliamentary political landscape is, well, the opposition KMT is the relative majority, occupies 52 seats. The DPP, the incumbent party, 51. The TPP, the third party, has 8, and there still are 2 independents. So you can see that none of the party enjoy majority in the parliament. And the opposition together, they are majority as compared to the incumbent minority. And the TPP, the third party, has only 8 seats, but is quite pivotal to the legislative process because they can align with each way, either to the KMT or the TPP. But right now, they are more likely to align with the KMT in the parliamentary process. Okay, next. And this is the, formation of the central government since year 2000. You can see that, after year 2000, we have experienced both divided government and unified government. In the year 2000 to 2008, it was a divided government ruled by the DPP. And then we have the KMT unified government and DPP unified government. But last year, 2024, the DPP won the president election, but the DPP did not win the majority in the parliament. So after 2024, it is divided government. And that matters in terms of our constitutional politics in Taiwan. So I will discuss this one later. Okay, next. And SNTP, okay, to make it short, SNTP MMD system is a multi-member plurality system. So a party got to nominate very ultimate candidate number in the district because it's multi-member, multi-seat. So the candidate must, the party must nominate more than one seat in a district. But so it requires the party's good capability to nomination should not under-nominate or over-nominate. Otherwise, they will waste their vote or they lose their seats in the district. And also, it requires parties' good capability to coordinate its party candidates, because each party got to prevent its own candidate to become a star candidate to receive more than votes than needed in the district. So it requests the equalization of vote to each political party. That means under the SNTP-MND, major political party, the bigger party is more capable to engage in nomination and coordination of own candidates as compared to those small and medium party on this one. And also, since it is a multi-member district, well, individual candidates, independents, they still have some room to get elected, but only based on individualist base, not on party base on this one. So you can see in Taiwan's local elections that, well, there are two major political parties, that's for sure. But other than these two major political parties, we do see some individual candidates in the local election on this one. Okay, next. This is a general pattern of political participation. And I should say that this is quite, well, unique phenomena for Taiwan. This is the 2024 presidential election, the turnout rate. And the green line, the blue line is male. The red line is for female. You can see the turnout rate is very high, from 60 to more than close to 80 on this one. Okay, and you can also see some life cycle on this one. Say young cohort. I mean, the X in the X rate is the age. You can see that the young cohort, I mean, on the left, has lower turnout rate than the right for the elders. Okay, I think this is quite well similar to this is a global trend. I mean that young cohort are less likely to turn out than elders on this one. And in Taiwan, you can see the average turnout rate has been high in this one. Okay, next. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is more complicated. I put the 2024 presidential election and also 2020 presidential election and also county level election and referendum in this one. Okay, here making sure is that, well, those elections with higher levels, I mean presidential, legislative, they have a higher turnout than local or higher turnout than referendum on this one. Okay, and the turnout rate in terms of age cohort, they do have a similar pattern. That means regardless what elections or what kind of what type of voting, the young cohort are less likely to turn out than the elders in this one. Okay, so you can compare this figure to previous one. Actually, they have basically the same pattern, and you can see that elder cohort, particularly at the age of 60 to 70s, are the highest turnout in Taiwan. Okay, again, I should say that in Taiwan, we don't have any compulsory regulations for individual citizens to cast their ballot. We are based on voluntary system. So this turnout rate, I should say that is very high compared to other countries in the world. Okay, next. Okay. Actually, I didn't put the results of local election here, but I try to summarize some takeaways of election result in Taiwan. I would say that the first is that, well, high turnout rates under a volunteer voting system. And the second one is the higher level elections, the higher turnout rates. The third is the higher level elections, the more intense partisan competition. That means, well, party competition are more severe, more obvious in higher level elections, not in lower level. I mean, for example, in local elections, political party, yes, it matters, but not as they did in the national elections. Okay, and independents are more likely to survive in the rural than the urban areas. And independents prevail at lower level elections. And we don't find any significant gender difference in turnout. And age cohort and turnout have been consistent. Elders are more likely to turn out. And the last is turnout of resident will be higher in the concurrent elections than in the non-concurrent elections. Here I say concurrent is that, well, we implement election and referendum at the same time, on the same day. That means, well, there are some interaction between referendum and elections. That would also generate some positive impact for turnout on this one. Okay, next. And the other is I try to say to you is that, well, the two key features of Taiwan's election is the female representative or female protection, this one. You can see this table from the legislative election to the, well, local election, I mean, special municipality councils or county councils or township. We do have all kind of regulations to protect female participation. For example, for the parliamentary member, in the election year, well, as I mentioned that the Constitution requires that every political party got to nominate at least 50% of female candidates in their party list PR elections. So that guarantee among the 34 party list candidates, there will be at least 17 will be female. But other than these 17, there's still some individual female candidates. They can win in district elections. So you can see that in 2024, we have 48 seats for female. That accounts around close to 43% of in the parliament. If we try to compare this number to other neighboring countries, for example, in Japan or South Korea, this number is high. And I think it's still high compared to other countries in the world on this one. And also at the local level, for example, in the special municipality councils, close to 40%. But the rule applied to this guarantee for the female protection is different rules. It was prescribed in the electoral law, which I call it the 1/4 rule. That means every 4th seat were reserved for one female. That means, well, in every 4 councillors, at least there will be one councillor will be female. So this 1/4 rule applied at the local levels. You can see that, well, in the municipal councils and also county councils and the township, they do have some female higher than 1/4 percentage on this one. But you also can find that, well, there is a number, what a trend says that, well, in the 2024 elections, when the 2022 elections, the female representative is lower at lower level elections. The reason, for example, in the township or rural representative, you can see that only 26%. And the 1/4 rule applied, but that was due to that even though there is 1/4 rule applies, but there are still many areas, the seats in the district are very small. They are less than 4, so only 3 or 2 seats. So there is that the female is not able to be guaranteed in the quota system, this one. So the percentage will be, the total percentage will be lower than higher level elections in this moment. Okay, we can also see more clear picture for next slide here. The next, yeah, you can see this one is a longitudinal one from 2002 to 2024, and there are some central election, local legislative election, and some local elections. You can see that the female protection is more salient at the legislative election. I mean, in the legislative year, and then the second higher will be in the metropolitan city, and then county and the city, and also the last will be township. So you can find a trend that, well, female protection is less obvious at low level elections, but is very obvious in higher level, particular in the parliamentary election in Taiwan. Okay, this is the first fusion of a female representative in Taiwan. Okay, next. The next feature I would say is indigenous people's electoral representation. Our constitution requires that, well, we have 6 seats for the indigenous people in Taiwan. These 6 seats is a little bit over-representation for the indigenous people, because in Taiwan, the indigenous people make up roughly 2.5% of the total population, but they are guaranteed have a 5.3 of seats in the legislative year. So this is institutional guarantee or institutional protection for the minority, for the indigenous people in Taiwan. Other than this, actually, in Taiwan, we also guarantee that these indigenous people, they can select their own candidate, their own council, or their own executive leadership in different area, particularly in some mountain area or mountain township. So they are separate from regular citizens in elections. So their guarantees that they can select their own indigenous people by the elections. So that's the 2 major features I would like to talk here about Taiwan's election here so far. Next. Okay, now let's turn to the other topic on the coming local elections. Right now, we expect we have around 11,000 posts open for competitions in the November 28th, 2026 on this one. So you can see this table that, well, from the metropolitan city to village or neighborhood level, we all have elections, and also some very unique indigenous district. Just I mentioned that they are allowed for the indigenous people to select their own indigenous leadership during election. This one. Okay, next. And this one is some voters might receive 5 bodies, some are received 3. So we talk about 9-in-1 elections. That means we have a total of 9 types of elections, but not every citizen receive 9 bodies. No, because different citizenship, they will apply to different elections. So you can see that some have 3 bodies, some have 5. Those people have 5 bodies in the county level and some mountain area, indigenous people. But for the metropolitan, they have only 3 on this one. Okay, so that's what we call that. Next. This is what I try to show you about Taiwan's election. Taiwan's local election in the past. We take the previous local election. That was 2022 local elections. It's a big deal of election management. You can, here I put our numbers here, that we have around 11,000 seats open for competition, and 17,000 post stations are the whole nation on this one. And every post station accounts for 1,500 to 2,000 votes, but this is average number. Some post stations have voters far less than this number, particularly in those rural area or some remote mountain areas. This one. And about 16 workers in each post stations. And we have around 300,000 people mobilized in last local elections. Okay, so including the chief administrator workers, inspector, blah, blah, all this way. They are all standardized personnel in each post station. And depends on how many voters that post station will have. The number of these workers will be varied, but basically there should be some administrator, workers, inspector in this way. And the chief administrator and the chief inspector are appointed by the Central Election Commission. And candidate and a party, they can recommend inspector for each poll station to monitor the process of election on that day. And we test our budget begin from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we finish in one day, and the preliminary result was released around 7 p.m. So it's quick because we can know the final result around 3 hours after elections. But if we have a more referendum at the same time, the time will be a little bit delayed. Depends on how many referendum we have in the elections. Actually, we do have some experience which is very good in the past. I will talk this one later. But anyway, I would say that on average, this is a big effort for Taiwan to mobilize all these people. And actually, for those 300,000 poll station workers, actually, they are recruited by the government in advance, maybe 3 months earlier. And they have to be trained, to be educated how to conduct all the voting process in this one. So they are volunteer. They got paid, but they are volunteer to be the posting worker on this one. So I would say that that was a very big mobilization on this one. Okay, next. And we try to figure out some issues to be watched in the 2026 local elections. Okay, the first one is quite normal one. That means some governing issues, including the performance of the president, the performance of the government, and also some, well, for this election, be the result of this election could be a predictor for the 2020 presidential election or not. And then we have to consider the costly issues, particularly for the information warfare dynamics engaged by China. China interference on this one. We are talking about later. And also some increasing number of concurrent referendum elections. I just say that. And up to today, I just updated that right now, we have 3 referendums for the elections on the same day. Okay, next. This one is trying to tell you that, well, how the central government perform. Okay, on the right-hand side, you can see the current president, Lai Ching-te. His performance is not that, well, not that good as his predecessor, Tsai Ing-wen. Okay, but if you compare to other figure, I will show later, that his performance is okay. Even though it's not excellent, but it's not bad. I should say that. Okay, next. Okay, next slide. Okay, his overall approval is around the people, greater majority are not satisfied, but the number is quite normal, I should say that, because not every president enjoy high popularity during the midterm elections on this one. Okay, so it's okay, I should say that. 40%, 40 plus, even up to 50. Well, that's pretty normal on this one. Okay, next. And economy. Actually, I should say that this number is a little bit, I don't say misleading, but a little bit confusing. If you compare to the objective number, I mean, economic development number, for example, GDP growth or economic growth for Taiwan, we have a very good performance. But in public opinion survey, if you ask people that, how do you feel about the economy in the past year? People are not that encouraged. They are a little bit dissatisfied in this one. So this figure is often seen in public service. Well, people are not that optimistic about the economic in the past in this one. And the next is also prospective. Next slide. Yes, people are not that insulated about the coming elections, coming economic history in Taiwan. So the overall condition for the current incumbent party, I mean, President Lai, he has a quite moderate approval rating, and popular perception of economy is also not that encouraging. But I should say that popular perception of economic performance is always not that encouraging in Taiwan. But the objective number should be much more better than this subjective number this year. Okay, next. And if you try to see some, well, the opposition leaders' popularity or the approval rating, well, KMT is suffering a low approval rating right now. Okay, last year we surveyed, last December we surveyed that, well, the KMT's chair lady, Zheng Liwen, she didn't enjoy good reputation in Taiwan. Next. And the third party, TPP, well, He Wen-je and Huang Guochang's popularity is better than Zheng Liwen, but it's a smaller party. So I should say that if you try to say how the performance of the opposition party and the incumbent party, I would say that the incumbent party is okay. And the opposition party, TPP is okay, but the TPP is okay, but the KMT is not. Okay, next. And also we try to some idea about concurrent election for the referendum. We can see that all these numbers shows that, well, in 2018, we have a 10 referendum that caused a big trouble. That means we have a very long day voting until midnight, and that was a disaster for election. And this time in 2026, we have a 3. So I think it's okay. It's okay for the coming elections. Okay, next. And other government issues. Well, the high housing and low salary issues continue here. And school lunch is some, well, salient balance issues promoted by across different parties. The newly emerged the food safety issue still, we still have some issues today, and a very localized issue during campaign. Okay, then next. China factor. I think this is more important. Sometimes we say that, well, China factor does not impact Taiwan's local election. That was the perception in the past, not today. I would say that today, not only central election, not only national election, but also local elections, that we do have some strong impact from mainland China. That means mainland China try to intervene Taiwan's election by all kind of ventures. The hard issues, for example, the military exercise, or some soft issues, soft power issues, for example, by the social media, by some disinformation issue, propaganda, and also here I say that working with collaborative influencers in Taiwan or parties, they try to influence the local the result of election. So I would say that in Taiwan, not only national election, but also local elections are also subject to China's impact today. Yeah, we are not able to exempt, immune from this influence in this one. Okay, next. And still, we are not that easy to defend China's effect on this one. Okay, I should say that here that some traditional manufacturing industry in Taiwan still heavily rely on cross-strait supply chains or maintain markets, or some service or tour economy are still looking for more open cross-strait interactions. So I should say that one reason for China factor to be important in Taiwan is China market is still the most easy benefit market for farmers and the fishermen. That means it's important for some sectors in Taiwan. So that give the China more leverage to influence Taiwan's election. This one. Okay, next. Okay, and then this is the most difficult one and most risky one. Okay, I try to give you some idea about what the possible outcome of these coming local elections. And you can see this figure on the left is the previous election, 2022, and on the right is this time, 2026. Okay, I would say that 2022 KMT is the majority, and 2026 KMT will be still majority, but they might lose some seat in these coming elections. For example, in the earlier period, in previous election, KMT has 14. Right now, I put KMT has 11 safe seats, and still plus some 2 leaning to KMT. And in 2022, the DPP was minority. DPP had only 5 seats, but this time, DPP has a safe 5 plus 1 leaning. And also, I should say that there are some highly competitive counties open for elections on this one. Okay, we can see the next table. So, yeah, this is very small table, but you can see that those with blue color are KMT's safe. Those green color are the DPP safe. Those red color are competitive one. And there is only 1 seat for DPP. So in general, I would say that the KMT will suffer a little bit for the coming election, and the DPP might have some benefit from it. But I would say that in the final result, the KMT will steer the majority at the local elections on this one. Okay, next. In the conclusion, I would say that, well, it's not that easy to make a very quick and short description about Taiwan's local elections. And so I would say that some good characteristic is that we have a very high turnout and very transparent and efficient electoral process and gender and indigenous representations. So that will ensure some democratic performance and very high political equality and political trust. But we do have some negative impact in this one. We have some divided government, the gray duck, until today. Actually, it was until this week that we are going to solve, the parliament are going to solve the 2025 national budget issues. That means this, 2026. Today is the August 2026, but our national budget was still in the parliament. We didn't pass that, not yet finished until this week. So the grid duck is serious because we have a very strong partisan polarization. And we don't have an absentee voting in our voting system. And the 5% threshold is still high for those minor parties in this one. And the ugly is that we will see some, red goals issues, the money issues in local elections, and also some disinformation campaign in election, this one. So that would degrade the quality of democracy at local level in this one. So these are the good, the bad, and the ugly side of these elections. Okay, the next. The last is to try to give you some information about if you are interested in Taiwan's local elections or national elections, you can visit the website of the Central Election Commission and also the Elections Center of National Zhengzhou University, which is my institution. I would say that these two units will give you some idea about how the election implement and how to get the data, the real data, electoral result, and the survey data, if you are interested in time studies and this one. Okay, that will be all my presentation here. I should stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yo, for your fruitful and insightful presentation. I think the presentation is very helpful for people to understand the development of Taiwan's electoral system and the upcoming election and what's going on in Taiwan's domestic politics. And now we are reaching the exciting part of QA session. So please use the QA feature at the bottom of your screen. I will do my best to address as many questions as possible, and we have around 15 minutes for this session. And before the question coming in, I would like to start the session with my own question. So I think we often hear that Taiwan's median or independent voters claiming that they do not have a strong preference for any particular political party, but they can ultimately decide the outcome of an election. Why is this the case in Taiwan, and what issues or consideration tend to influence their choices, or are they actually independent voters?
Okay, median voter or the independent voters, to some degree, we use different terms, but we try to figure out the number. I would say that around 35 to 40, depends on different elections. These people, they call themselves independent or non-partisan voters, but they do cast their ballot in elections. That means they are independent, but they are not non-voters. They participate. That makes these people more important in elections. And the driven factors behind these people will be say that they are more likely to be influenced by short-term event. Okay, short-term event, for example, some corruption issues, some individual issue. For example, in 2020 presidential election, the Hong Kong issues was important. That impact quite a lot of independent voters to cast a ballot for the DPP. And also, in the local elections, individual candidates are more important than parties. So this independent, they will impact those individual voters on this one. So I would say that those median voters or independent voters, they are more likely to review the performance of individual candidate, not party. And they will also likely to be impacted by personal networking issues, or they are more likely to take their own judgment about, well, the performance of each individual party rather than the performance of political party on this one.
And talking about party, because when TPP start getting bigger in Taiwan, many scholars or experts were saying that TPP might not survive 3 elections since it's a small party in Taiwan. What would you say today? That is there any prospect for TPP in the future?
I think this local election is crucial for the TPP, and the TPP is very cautious to deal with this one. To respond this change, TPP has been quite smart so far. They nominated their own candidate, particularly for those city councilors. They are very moderate. They nominate only one candidate in each district.
Mm.
Okay, just as I mentioned that under the SNTV system, individual candidate has some rooms to win elections. So this nomination strategy is smart. That means the TPP is able to concentrate all its popular support on one candidate only. They will not split their popular support in the district. So each candidate in that district is more likely to receive all the TPP social base that make the TPP candidate much easier to get elected. So they nominate their candidate in the council elections, but not nationwide in certain districts, particularly in the urban area, this one. So if they can get good presentation in council elections, they can continue to survive to 2028. Okay, and which I will say that this is not a big issue. They can win some seats at that time. Okay, the most challenging for the TPP is the 2028 president elections because they are not able, if they are not able to present their own president candidate, then their survival will be an issue. But it's quite difficult for them to present their own president candidate because right now, the former party chairman, Cohen, he has some, criminal issues on this one. And right now, we do not find any, encouraging candidate in the TPP. So, it's not an issue for this localization for the TPP, but the challenge is 2028. So that will be this one. Continue. The most difficult issue for the TPP is the the TPP has to expand its own grassroots support in Taiwan. But right now, we find they have only some popular support in the cities, not the whole Taiwan area, this one. That would be another challenge for the TPP. That means the organizational issues is important for the TPP, but so far, they didn't do it well to these issues on this one.
So there's some chance for them to survive, but still a lot of struggle for them till 2028.
Yeah.
There's a question from the audience. The audience interested in the offshore islands. The question is, do you have insight into how the female ratio or voter turnout, for example, compared to those of the main island? And how will the upcoming local election look like in the offshore islands?
I do not have the data related to the female distribution in the offshore island. Sorry on this one. The other issues are with the offshore island election, I would say that they are less likely to have that strong partisan competition like they are in Taiwan Island, on Taiwan Island. And I would say that we have a different phase of offshore island elections. For example, in Jinmen and Mazu, they are not that anti-China sentiment. So China issue was not that strong in these two areas. But in Penghu, yes, Penghu is more like a Taiwan island on this one. And in the Jinmen and Mazu, because they are too close to China and they continuous to have some digital link to mainland China. So they have a more, I should say that, not that hostile attitude toward mainland China. So the candidate, for example, the county magistrate for Jinmen has continues to propose some more positive engagement with mainland China, even Jinmen and the Xiamen issues on this one. So these two offshore islands, Jinmen and Mazu, they have maintained different attitude related to cross relations from Taiwan Island, this one. But other than this, I should say that Jinmen, Mazu, this offshore island, other than this China factor, the kinship factor, their family factors are more important than other candidate issues or some performance issue in this one. That means family politics is more salient in these two areas on this one, and more obvious than those in the Taiwan Island. Okay, and the last one you mentioned about the official data about the female issues, I should say that I do not have the female comparison on this offshore island, but maybe we can check the Central Election Commission, the website. There are always data set for individual district result on this one. So there's maybe some idea on this one.
Since you talk about the family politics on some of the offshore island, I have another question. It's like, how would you describe the relationship between the local factions and local election? For example, in Jiayi, Zhanghua, or Hualien, like how do these factions interact with political parties and the central government?
Okay. When I say that partisan competition is less salient in local election, actually it was replaced by faction politics. That means political party will subsume its role in local election and give its role to the local election, to the local factions. So yes, in some area, particularly in the rural area or some agricultural counties, local factions are strong, and they are even stronger, more important than political parties. So those factional leaders, they have to control some key political posts. For example, not only county administrator, but only the county council speakers, and also some the head of farmers association, something like that. These are organizations very likely to mobilize their supporters as voters in elections. So these local elections, the party, when they nominate a candidate, this local election, they have some say in the process of nomination. So yes, there is a very strong relationship between the party and local elections. They cooperate. They maintain a so-called patron-client relations between these two. So they have exchange some political support for economic benefits. So that's the way that they maintain the party and local factions at the local levels. And I should say that not only the KMT, but also the DPP, they use the similar patterns to maintain their local connections. Yeah.
Mhm. We have around 3 minutes now, so I will ask the last question, and after that, we'll wrap up the webinar today. So Taiwan currently requires the citizen to vote in their registered constituency. And how do you see the challenges this pose for Taiwanese citizens living abroad or in other cities outside of their own registered area? And do you see, is there any possibility that the government would change this rule, or they would just continue the current rule that you have to travel back to the place that you register yourself?
Yeah, we talked this one in Taiwan. This topic has been talked quite a long time. We all support the idea of absentee voting in Taiwan, either postal ballot or the overseas voting or even electronic voting. All the proposals were discussed, and actually, I should say that the government so far has also prepared all these proposals.
Mm.
The problem is the public confidence.
Mhm.
When you ask people in Taiwan, do you trust overseas voting? They don't.
Mhm.
Particularly for the talking about how could you ask our citizen to cast the ballot in mainland China and guarantee that that kind of voting process is transparent and open? No. So this is issue related to politics, not electoral management or skills. No. So today, public competence was not as strong, but we do have some some progress. For example, uh, more and more consensus on to implement absentee voting on certain elections, particularly on the referendum, nationwide referendum issues. That means not elections. We open absentee voting for on the referendum, so people can cast their ballot everywhere for the referendum to say yes or no. And we try to evaluate the whole process and then try to move to, say, national elections. I mean, for example, president elections. I mean, after the test and trial, then we can learn some lessons and then move to president election, national, and then the local elections. The reason is that, well, national elections, you can cast your ballot everywhere on the island or offshore island too. You don't go back to your hometown. So it's easier to implement. And by way of this process, to build up public confidence on absentee voting, then we gradually move to the other national election and then move to local elections. Local election will be the last stage because local is very diversified. You cannot have too many absentee voting at a time. So it's a gradual process. But still, we are always talking about electronic one. Again, we are quite concerned about some, well, cyber attack from mainland China if we are engaged in electronic voting this way. So when you talk to people, say that, well, do you like have some kind of electronic voting or not? People say, that sounds good, but I'm worried, blah, 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 all the way. So all the proposal was stopped because we are still in a state of competence building this one. And the other argument, the other opinion would say that, well, so far we have a pretty high turnout already. That's one thing. The other thing is, well, we know the result very soon. I mean, we finished voting at 4 p.m. At 7 p.m., we all know the all result. Then why bother? We needed to use electronic one, right? So electronic is try to make your process more quick, but how quick you can earn from this process, but you take more risk about being interference by other forces on this one. So all this you makes efforts quite difficult to improve. But still, the proposal is that, well, we got to practice absentee voting, maybe from referendum first, national referendum, and then try to have some lessons and some improvement, and then come to election. Or national referendum, and then offshore island elections. That'll be easier to implement this one. So yes, there are quite a lot of talks how to implement this one, but not yet. But there are quite a lot of proposals. Yeah.
But it does sound quite challenging for Taiwan due to the very complicated cross-strait relations. Yeah.
Everything stopped. Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's 2 past 11 already. And so I would like to conclude the webinar with a bit of my own thoughts that I think it is, of course, important to recognize Taiwan's democratic involvement, but also it is crucial to continue reflecting on the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Taiwan's election, as Professor just mentioned in his conclusion. And there's always space for Taiwan to improve in the future. And since the time is already we run out of time. So special thanks to our speaker, Professor Yo, today. And we hope maybe we can have another webinar in the future to discuss more about Taiwan's election. And I hope to see all the audience in the future webinar of ISDP. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.